everybody, and welcome to Blue Jays Today, where we always got something to say about the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm your host, Adam Peddle.
And I'm your host, Nicholas Playlock, and we got a lot of Toronto Blue Jays news to break down, some injury updates, some prospect updates, and looking at those contract extensions from the big core boys. Before we get into it, guys, please make sure to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts down below about the Toronto Blue Jays season as a whole. Let's kick this thing off with some of the current core players. Bichette, Guerrero. These have been the guys that have been talked about for seasons now, and the big conversation is when or if are they going to get an extension? You know, is Vladdy going to be the guy long term? Is Bo going to be the guy long term? And how much are they going to get paid, and when are we going to pay them, and what is that entire contract going to look like? So lots of stuff going on with them. But you came across a pretty interesting article that kind of flips that whole conversation on its head a little.
Yeah, because I think undoubtedly everybody going into this season said, well, I'd rather have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. on a big extension, you know? We're very fresh off of, a down 2022 year, but everyone still remember the 2021 season.
Yep.
And Bo Bichette, he was good. Hey, an AL leader in hits the last two seasons, but the defense was bad. The offense numbers were good, but not great. This year, very different. It looks like a lot of people are starting to turn the conversation over to, is Bichette making a case for a contract extension over Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? And there's a lot of points here, because if you look over at Bo Bichette's just overall numbers, you look at the percentile rankings here, they're all looking really good. But this season, right now, he's getting 893 OPS. I believe that leads all of the Blue Jays with a 331 batting average. And it's because he's not striking out as much as he used to before. 87 percentile in the K percentage, whereas last year, 42. That was the big change for him.
Yeah.
So, you look at those numbers, and Vladdy, now in his second season after the big 2021 campaign, numbers very similar. What are your thoughts about Vladdy first to start off? Because he has been struggling. He's starting to get a little bit hot. He had a good game yesterday. But is he starting to slip out of that conversation for a big extension?
Well, we were talking the other day, actually. Somebody posed the question, is Guerrero overrated? And I was pretty split on that, because it really depends on who's doing the rating, right? If you're still looking at him like, maybe a perennial MVP candidate, that potentially the answer is yes, right? But if you're looking at Vladdy as to what he is right now, which is a well above average player who should be in the conversation for an all-star every year and should be up there for RBIs every year, then I don't think he's overrated. So I think Guerrero might not be the Connor McDavid level talent that potentially all of us thought that he was going to be when he was walking into the league, because that was the hype surrounding him. But he's still a phenomenal player, right? He's still the type of guy that you want to build your team around, right? Like, he is our Wander Franco, and he is our Bryce Harper, and everything like that. He is our franchise guy. I do think that we're seeing right now, he's still got some holes in his game, and the work never stops, right? Even though you found it in 2021, the league adjusted, right? The league adjusted, and now it's your turn to come back. And if this is, again, his floor of I bat 280 and I still hit for a decent amount of pop and I do get on base and I have an OPS over 800, I will take that. I would love it if we can have a month that goes by where we see the ceiling again, where he is hitting like Bo Bichette is doing, right? Like a 1.1 OPS. I'd love it if we could see that month from me.
Right. That's definitely a conversation, this whole contract conversation. Obviously, we don't have to answer it right now, but it is to know, it kind of feels like it's a little bit of a back and forth race, because it's kind of hard to shell out $250+ million to two guys unless you're the San Diego Padres. But, you look right now, and yes, he is struggling a little bit. It feels like he presses a lot when he struggles, but a guy who doesn't feel like he's pressing at all is Bo Bichette right now. And you could argue this is his 2021 Vladdy campaign right now. He's not struggling at all. What are your thoughts on Bo Bichette? And to answer the question, is he right now beating Vladdy? And would you give him a contract if it was tomorrow?
If it was tomorrow, then potentially yes. Because the only thing that we've seen from Bo Bichette is an upward trajectory. Right? It's never been going down, really. Like, he's just been getting good at freaking baseball. And we're seeing the defense come around right now. Because even the last year, Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s, his numbers went down offensively. Well, his defense improved. Bo Bichette's defense is improving, and his offensive numbers are going up right now. And he has just been I think the best term to use, and actually the term that this article references a lot, is clutch. He is the clutchest Blue Jay, and significantly more clutch than Vladimir Guerrero Jr. There is a great statistic, guys, out there that is literally termed as clutch, and it involves a lot of math. It looks at a bunch of situations and everything like that. So I don't want to break down the entire formula because God only knows. I don't even think we fully understand.
No, not at all.
But we do know what clutch means, and clutch is when we need to get a base hit. You are coming up.
Yeah.
You are coming clutch.
Critical situations, runners in scoring position, game-deciding RBIs. This is what it all kind of factors in. And this article brings us the numbers, guys. Bo Bichette has a clutch of 0.683. So if you look at this little chart right here, that is an above-average player, which is pretty good. And then you look at Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who has a negative 0.163. So it's a little bit below average in that chart. So when you take that all in consideration, I mean, yes, you know, you obviously want a more clutch guy coming through in big moments. That's why you're paying him the money. Because right now, and I think we all can agree, when we've seen when the lights get bright, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. presses. When the conversation becomes you're struggling, he tends to lean into that narrative, and he struggles. Now, I do believe he has all of the opportunities and all the resources and all the talents to get back to where he is, but it seems like overall he struggles. So I'm gonna have to agree with you right now. If I were to decide tomorrow who's getting the $250 million plus extension, I gotta give it to Bo Bichette just because of what you said. He's on the upward trajectory.
He's on the upward trajectory and his clutch factor. And it should be noted, guys, that these clutch statistics, this is from 4 seasons. It's not just these past 2 months. Like, that includes Guerrero's MVP year, right? Like, that includes both of them being elite. So this is a long sample size here of noting that it's like, Bo Bichette is just significantly more clutch than Guerrero. Now, I will say this, even though right now, today, Bo is potentially in the lead, tomorrow it could be Guerrero.
Exactly.
And I still do think that if it's up to the management, they're going to choose Vladdy. I think that they're going to choose Vladdy because he is the face of the franchise that they built it around. I would imagine that he's probably the bigger moneymaker when it comes to selling jerseys and everything like that, even though Bo Bichette is quite the name as well. I still think that this organization is committed to Guerrero, but it's not lost what you're doing, Bo. You were doing phenomenally.
No, and we don't have to decide this, like I said, right now. Bo Bichette is literally coming off of a 3-year extension, including this as being
That's why we gave it to him, man.
I know, exactly.
That's a good move.
Dude, I mean, remember when I remember saying this back on a podcast, I was like, this is going to help his game.
Yeah.
Because he's not going to be worried about money or trying to prove it or trying to live up to Guerrero. He's getting paid. Now he can focus on baseball. So this conversation is obviously never going to stop. It's going to keep going until that final year. I believe it'll be 2025 when both of them are coming up, if they haven't been signed already, on some big extensions. So at that point, I think that's when Rodgers is going to have to make a decision. It's going to be tough.
We're going to have to shell out like $600 million. It is going to be a lot of freaking money.
How do you not try and extend both of them?
You have to.
You know what I mean?
No, you have to. I mean, I think honestly, like, I'm really hoping that this entire conversation is moot and they do just get both of them on, because it really is needed for this franchise.
Yeah.
Now, those are 2 guys that you very clearly know about. This next player is kind of the Toronto Blue Jays' maybe best kept secret.
Time for a quick shout out to Betway. Betway is the best place to make all of your sports bets on all of your favorite teams. Betway is also in collaboration with iGaming Ontario. Must be 19 years older to participate. And guys, please bet responsibly. Now, back to the content.
And you probably haven't heard about him, and that is Spencer Horowitz. Now, this is a minor league prospect who, in the words of Jay's Journal, says is major league ready. And he's putting together quite the minor league season so far.
Yeah, he is. I mean, Spencer Horowitz, if you all remember, he was in the World Baseball Classic for Israel, and he was kind of one of the highlights there. And it looks like there's good reason why. 25-year-old, he's batting .223 so far in AAA Buffalo, and he's got an
323.
323, excuse me, and he's got an OPS of 878. So he's got some slug, He's got some batting average. And look at that on base. 443. So he's getting on for a good clip. And now he is a first baseman. That's why there is nowhere to put him. And they are trying him out in left field and in right field, as you can see. But they're doing that because you got a logjam at first base. You've got literally, like we're talking about, a guy who could get paid $250, $300 million in the future. And then you got your left and right field. And you got Merrifield there. You got Biggio. So, I mean, he could be in the wings if an injury happens there. You got Nathan Lucas up there. If he struggles, he could get an opportunity in the future.
Right.
But it seems like it's really far out. So it is a blessing. It's also,
it's a little bit of both, right? And I do think this is kind of Kevin Biggio insurance for me as well, right? Like, even though he, in the past, 5 days, Biggio has been pretty good.
He's been pretty good.
He's been pretty damn good. But, I mean, if that does cool off and if he does continue to struggle as he's been doing, this is a guy that can come up and at least give you a little bit of outfield depth.
Right.
And then also, too, you're looking at Brandon Belt. Well, that's a one-year deal that you have this guy on, right? I mean, he's doing very well right now. He's your 4-hitter. But if he decides to go this year, it's good to know that there are prospects down there that are producing at potentially a major league level. This is our prospect system working, guys. I feel like Toronto Blue Jays fans have just got it in their mindset that if we don't buy everything, we're gonna lose. And that's because our prospect system, minus these core pieces in Guerrero and Bichette, has failed us a lot of times. But when you look at these other squads, like the Rays and, just all of them, right? A lot of their guys are homegrown. Maybe this could be a dude.
Yeah, we spend so many years trading away all these prospects, rightfully so. We're in a competitive window. It's like, it feels like we're kind of depleted. So it is good. We're kind of seeing the other side of things. Like, now we got to grow it up. And I was going to make an argument and be like, well, we could also just trade this guy. But then I'm like, man, are we going to keep trading every single guy that's good in our system? Like, there's got to be some sort of replenishing in the future. And maybe Spencer's part of that.
Maybe he's a guy, right? I mean, 25 years old, you feel like it's time to come to the majors. So, next year, Brandon Belt, if you decide to go elsewhere, if there's an injury, could be an opportunity. Speaking of homegrown talent, and one dude that, in my opinion, both of our opinions, definitely paid off, Alejandro Captain freaking Kirk. This dude is back, as we were saying he was gonna be. Kirky batting .368 in the last 11 games. There was so many, screams and echoes for Alejandro Kirk to be DFA'd, Alejandro Kirk to be sent down to the minors. You guys are talking about overreacting to the captain after a month? Boys, girls, this is the freaking legend right here. And let me ask you, what has changed in the last 11 games? What has changed in the last 11 games?
I can tell you, there's a guy, Dirty Hands Jansen, Janie Jansen. I love Dirty Jansen. You know what I mean? He's my boy. I want him back on the team, but because he's hit the IL, you're seeing an opportunity arise for Kirk to be in the lineup every single day, it seems like. And look, he's taking advantage of that opportunity. And look, I'm not going to be out here saying Kirk is a slugging machine. He's crazy. But you know what he is? He's a guy that gets on base.
Hell yeah.
His on base percentage is one of the highest, or his walk percentage, is one of the highest, and he doesn't strike out. He'll give you quality at-bats in the middle of the game. And yes, the OPS is starting to rise a little bit. If we're going to give Brandon Belt time, we're going to give George Springer time. We got to give Alejandro Kirk some time, because we saw last year the potential. Literally, I saw something that John Boy posted, Kirk being considered one of the best catchers in the game, and our own fan base doesn't even think that. I'm like, why? Because he is.
I have no idea, dude. I have no
idea. Offensively.
I really don't understand why the fan base gets after this guy as much as they do. And just so you guys know, Danny Jansen's just hitting over 200. It's not like... I love Danny Jansen. This is no knock on Danny Jansen. No. But it's just like, he's just hitting over 200. Kirk's getting on base 36% of the time. And when you're thinking about the makeup of our lineup, right, and you're thinking about the guys in the meat of the order, you got Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who's got swing and miss in his game this year. You got Brandon Belt, so much swing and miss. Matt Chapman, so much swing and miss. Don't you want to have a guy at the bottom who can potentially get on and set the table for George Springer? A massive conversation when we got George Springer was, well, maybe we need to put him in the middle of the order so he gets more RBI potential. This guy was batting 8th yesterday.
I know.
He got on base 3 times for George Springer to then hit in an RBI.
See, I'll switch what you're saying there, because you're saying for Kirk to get on base, for other guys to drive him in, yeah, he's a little bit slower. He clogs up the bases just a bit. But, hey, why not put him in an RBI situation like Nick's saying? Like, if all he's going to do is smack a single, have someone on second for him to come home. That's all I'm saying. Maybe after Chapman, after Merrifield, you put Kirk right there in that 7th spot. That feels like a good spot for him to drive in some runs. You know what I mean?
I am saying that Kirk needs to be in the lineup. That's what I'm saying. Because
the
there is literally no argument not to have a guy that gets on base at that clip, that hits the way that he does, and that doesn't strike out, to not be in the lineup. Because the worst possible outcome from a Kirk game is that he goes 0 for 4, but he works that pitcher, baby.
Right.
He works that pitcher, and you can't say that for some other guys.
Well, I will say it is tough, man, to get him in the lineup. We have amazing assets in the Toronto Blue Jays position players. I mean, guys who are going to be splitting that catching position. Obviously, you have Danny Jansen and Alejandro Kirk, but then the DH spot, it feels like it's Kirk and it's Belt, and Belt is locking himself in. He's locking himself every single day up in that 4 spot, because we've been looking for a lefty to drive in runs. It's not Dalton Varsho. You can argue it's Kevin Kiermaier, but they're not going to put him in the 4 spot. They're not going to do that. So guess who it's going to be? It's going to be Brandon Belt, who hit over 900 OPS in the month of May. So I feel like once Danny Jansen comes back, you got a decision to make. Danny Jansen isn't going to lose playing time.
No,
we all know. So I feel like Kirk is going to have to revert back to that role, unfortunately, just because there's just a log jam there.
I kind of hate it. I kind of hate it, guys. I kind of hate it. Hopefully we can figure something out in that regard, but at least Alejandro, he's getting that swing back. Final notes, guys, injury-wise, good to see. Chad Green, Hyunjin Ryu, their names keep coming up, as they should. We have holes in the starting rotation, and we do have holes in that bullpen. These are 2 guys Chad Green acquired in the offseason, Hyunjin Ryu acquired several offseasons ago, that I think a lot of Blue Jays fans kind of forgot about. They're not that far off. No, they're very close. They're 11 months after their Tommy John, and it looks like Hyunjin Ryu is going to return post All-Star break, and it seems Chad Green right now doesn't really have a deadline, but it feels like around the same thing, post All-Star break, early August, and that would be huge. We all know Hyunjin Ryu and how he's done in his career in the past. Much better than what he's done recently, but you could argue that there's some injuries in here. There's some sticky stuff adjustment, but Ryu's been looking really good coming back. He's locating all of his pitches. He's looking in great shape right now. So honestly, Ryu could be a wild card. He could be a dice roll that could be good for this rotation, and just in terms of depth too, because our depth is lacking in that starting position role. And if an injury happens, God forbid, we're kind of stuck right here with the guys that we have in the minors. But then you look over at Chad Green, and this is a refresher that we all need to know. Chad Green was a Yankee for a very long time, and now he comes over to the Blue Jays, and you could see a season like 2021-2020. This is what we got, because there's injuries in here for 2022, obviously. But still, numbers look good. But what I really like to see is that whip. Look at that whip in those good, healthy years. 0.8. Yeah. That's phenomenal. That's the kind of guy that we need in the back end of the bullpen. And I think it's phenomenal, too, the timing of when they're going to come back, because All-Star break happens mid-July. Trade deadline is 2 weeks after All-Star break. If these guys come back, you get 2, maybe 3 starts of Hyunjin Ryu in there. You get a few bullpen appearances from Chad Green. You get a sense as to what you have. Okay, Ryu, he doesn't have it. We need to get a starting pitcher. Or, alternatively, Ryu's got it, baby. Maybe we need to address these other assets, right? It just gives you a little insight as to how you're going to address that trade deadline, getting these reinforcements back when you do.
Yeah, and it's almost, if you also could think of it like this way, it's like you're literally getting trade assets coming in for
100%,
free.
100%.
For free. I say for free very lightly, because $20 million for Ryu, and then Chad Green's also getting paid, I think, $3 or $4 million as well. They'll cost Rogers money, but on a playing field standpoint, it's like, we didn't have to give up really any assets, any player assets to get these guys. So you get those guys, and if you add on even a little bit more, like a cherry on top, maybe with some trades, that'd be nice. That'd be a really good reinforcement to these Blue Jays. Even though they're kind of wild cards. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens, man. It is a bit of a dice roll. But guys, you let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. But everything that we talked about today, Bo Bichette, Guerrero, Ryu, Chad Green, Alejandro, literally everything, comment it down below.
Guys, and please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And $3 a month to become a Patreon member. Shout out and thank you to all of our current Patreon members as well as our YouTube members. You guys are so awesome. Thank you for all your support.
Thank you so much for watching.
And go Chase, go!